Hare Krishna. So, 1 year ago, more or less, we started this program, these events known as Bhakti Life, and the idea is gradually, systematically to go through the whole philosophy, culture, and practice of the Krishna conscious process of devotional service. So basically the idea is those people who want to know more how to live, how to practice the philosophy of Krishna consciousness, to learn these things. And if you remember the previous season, or Unit 1 from Bhakti Life, we were speaking mainly about the theology and philosophy of Krishna consciousness. We were going through different aspects, like for example, what is the soul, who is God, different aspects of God, topics like reincarnation, karma, time in the universe, different planetary systems, different energies of God, all these things we are describing them. And those who want, they can hear these classes there in our YouTube channel, ISKCON and YC. All these lectures are there. So now we start with the second unit. We are going to speak more about the culture of Krishna consciousness. So we have two things in Krishna consciousness. We have the philosophy, and then we have the culture. What is the culture? Culture is the knowledge of the philosophy that you put in practical life. This is the culture. So we are going to go through different aspects of our culture and also the history of Gaudiya Vaishnavism, or this spiritual tradition that we are part in. So the first few topics that we are going to discuss today and the next day are ISKCON's cultural identity. Who are we? And we are part of what, which tradition? Then we are going to speak about the Vedas. What is the Vedic literature and different kinds of Vedas or Vedic books. Then we will discuss the social system of the Vedas, the 4 Varnas, the qualities of each Varna of different people, what is their duties, what is their work. Then we are going to speak about the 4 ashramas, or levels in spiritual life. There are 4 different levels in spiritual life. We are going to speak about the basis of the whole Vedic civilization, which is respect. Then we are going to discuss a little bit ethics and morality. And we are going to speak also about men and women in the Vedic culture. What is their position? What is their situation? So gradually we'll go through all these topics. Now let's start with the first one. ISKCON's cultural identity. So we are practicing some philosophy which is coming from India, more or less, isn't it? Do you agree with this?
Yes.
So now, okay, if we are practicing something which is coming from India, who are we and what are we? Like, are we Hindus? Are we, what is our cultural identity, basically? Many people will say, well, this is Hinduism. Yes, but under the name Hinduism, many things are going on nowadays. Many teachings, many kinds of worship. We have a very specific culture. Like, for example, we are followers of Krishna. In the traditional Hinduism, I mean nowadays Hinduism, you can find worshippers of so many gods and goddesses, and with so many different motivations. Some people are worshipping gods just to make money or to get rid of the sufferings, and so on and so on. So we have very specific outlook on all this. What is Srila Prabhupada saying? in one place in Chaitanya Charitamrita. Culture means human life. Otherwise, dog's life. There is Adambitvam, Ahimsa, Kshantir, Arjavam. Everything is described. Amanitvam. First of all, you have to learn how to be humble. So, the idea of following certain philosophy and culture is to imbibe certain qualities in your character. And when it comes to our cultural identity, as the devotee says, the Vaishnavas, we are part of the ancient Vedic tradition. Someone may say, well, nowadays India is also like following the Vedic tradition. Well, yes and no. Some things that nowadays are followed in India, yes, they present the Vedic tradition, or in other words, we can say, in nowadays Indian culture, there are lots of leftovers from the Vedic culture. But it is not that nowadays in India people live exactly according to the Vedic culture. Rather, for many of them, this is something ancient, something not practical, old-fashioned. It restricts your freedom, and so on and so on and so on. So, if we say that we belong to the Vedic culture, well, what is this Vedic culture, and where can we see it? Well, one thing is sure, we can see it on the pages of the Vedas. Yes, the Vedic literature. So basically, all these ancient books like the Puranas, Srimad Bhagavatam, Mahabharata, Ramayana, Bhagavad Gita, they describe a certain philosophy, like for example, Krishna is the Supreme Lord, we are spirit souls, we are servants of God, and so on and so on, many different philosophical aspects. But they don't describe just the philosophy. They describe so many cultural aspects. And this is the Vedic culture described in these ancient books. There is a certain etiquette, how you live, how you deal with people, how you treat your family members, how you treat your mother and father. What are your duties as a student, as a family man, as a monk? What are your duties as an intellectual in the society, as a warrior, as a businessman? All this is actually described in this book. So basically they give a whole wholesome body of philosophy and a culture that follows this philosophy. So we are actually followers of this ancient culture. Other name that is used in the Vedas for this ancient culture is Varna, Ashrama, Dharma. Have you heard this name? Dharma means tradition or culture or religion. Varna means different social
status
levels, we could say. And then ashrama means spiritual levels that one should follow in order to elevate his consciousness. As Srila Prabhupada is saying, we are supposed to live as a humans, and in order to achieve that, we need a certain culture. Otherwise, we will just follow another culture, but this other culture may not help us to become humans, rather it may help us to degrade and become dogs and cats. So, Vedic literature is describing the different aspects of this ancient culture. There is a famous verse from Bhagavad Gita. Krishna is saying, Chatur Varnyam Maya Srishtam Gunakarma Vibhagashaha Vidi Akartaram Avyayam. Anyway, there's one more line. But basically Krishna is saying Chatur Varnam, all these yes, different levels of this Vedic system, they were created by me. Maya Srishtam, I created them. And although they are created by me, I am not part of this system. I am transcendental to this system. I don't have to follow any of those duties. But nonetheless, this system is giving a specific duties for the specific individuals in the society, so that the society can function as a whole without big disturbances and problems. For example, if we see the human body, we have different parts in the body, yes? We have a head, and the head has a function. We have hands, the hands also has function. We have a stomach, the stomach has a function. We have legs, they also have function. So each part of the body should perform certain work, and if these parts cooperate, then the body exists as one whole and can do work. Now what will happen, let's say, if the head wants to do the job of the legs, or the legs wants to do the job of the head? What will happen? Chaos. Yes. There will be a problem, isn't it? So in the same way, in the society, we have people who are more like intellectuals. They have to be the thinkers of the society. We have strong people which are the protectors of the society. We have people like are making the energy of the society, the Vaishyas, the businessmen. And then we have people that they are good to run, to do practically the job. They can do things. So if those combine, then you have a very structured and nice society. So now, before going more into this, let's just speak a little bit about the Vedas, because the Veda is the source of all this knowledge. Otherwise, we cannot know what is this ancient culture, Vedic culture. Srila Prabhupada. Srila Vyasadeva, Mahamuni. You know who is Vyasadeva? He's the author of the Vedas. Because the Vedic tradition is so old, it was not written down. It was just transmitted from teacher to disciple by oral reception. The teacher speaks and the disciple hears and remembers. And then after some time he becomes a teacher and he gives the knowledge to his disciples. So that was the way how the Vedic knowledge was transmitted. But then Srila Vyasadeva, a great personality, actually incarnation of God, he wrote down this knowledge. So Srila Vyasadeva, Mahamuni, compiled the Vedic literature for the benefit of all human society. If one wants to be protected from the reactions of ignorance, even if this age of Kali, one may consult the books left by Srila Vyasadeva, Upanishads, Vedanta Sutra, Mahabharata, Srimad Bhagavatam, Mahapurana, Vyasadev's commentary on the Brahma Sutra, and other 17 Puranas. Only by the mercy of Srila Vyasadeva do we have so many volumes of transcendental knowledge to save us from the clutches of ignorance. So now how the Vedas came to be written. In the beginning of the creation, we have the first living entity. It's called Brahma, Brahmaji. And then Brahma appeared and saw only darkness around himself. And then he heard the words tapa, and he understood that he has to take a serious penance or austerity, and this will help him to understand what he has to do, what's his duty. So for many years, long period, Brahma was meditating, and then Krishna, the Supreme Lord, revealed in his heart the complete knowledge. Who is he? What is the goal of life? How to create the whole universe? All these things were revealed to Brahma. So this is how the Vedic knowledge or Vedic traditions appears in the universe, in the heart of the first living entity, Brahma. So later Brahma gave the same knowledge, the same Vedic knowledge to Narada. Narada is one of the great sages in the universe. It's a son of Brahma. And he gave it to Shiva Vyasadeva. Narada Muni is the spiritual master of Shiva Vyasadeva. So Narada Muni is instructing Vyasadeva what to do, how to write the Vedic literature, how to structure it. Actually, the Vedic knowledge is eternal, yes. But what Vyasadeva, Shiva Vyasadeva is doing, he's systemizing it, making it very easy for people to understand, dividing it into different topics, different areas, we could say. So, Shiva Vyasadeva compiled the 4 Vedas. First, Vyasadeva saw the degradation of the people in Kali Yuga, and he understood that he has to write down the knowledge so that people, they can free themselves from the ignorance of the influence of Kali Yuga. This is the age in which we are living now, at the moment. It's known as the Iron Age of quarrels and hypocrisy. Difficult timings for spiritual advancement, for practicing Ayurveda. So he divided the one Vedic knowledge into 4 parts. So in the beginning, the Veda was one body of knowledge. And then Shiva Vyasadeva divided it into 4 according to topics and put it into 4 different books. Maybe Pandavaprabhu can tell us a little bit more about the Vedas. So the name of the Vedas and which Veda is dealing with which kind of knowledge exactly.
Mm-hmm. Okay, the word Veda means knowledge. So knowledge is like light. We are born in darkness, of ignorance. Om Agyana Timirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya. When you are in a dark room, you don't see yourself, neither you see your surroundings. So if you want to be active in this environment, you inevitably harm yourself and you harm other creatures around you because you're in darkness, you don't know what you're doing. So Vedas give light, knowledge, and they explain who is God, what is the soul, what is the material nature, what is the ultimate goal of life, and how to attain this goal. These 3 things, Sambandha, Avidya, Prayojana. These are the 3 great riches of the Vedas. So in this goal in mind, Shiva Vyasadeva divided the unified Veda in 4 main parts. They're called Rig, Rig Veda, Yajur Veda, Samaveda, and Atharva Veda. Okay, so the original mantras, or the collection of hymns, are collected in Rig Veda, and therefore glorification of Krishna. But because people are materialistic usually, so they are different names of the demigods also mentioned there. Demigods are parts of the universal body of the Lord. So when the people have some materialistic goals, then they can worship the demigods. Although, as Krishna explains in Bhagavad Gita, Yepi anya devata bhaktya bhajante shraddhanam videha tepi mam eva kauntiya bhajatya vidi purvakam. All those people who worship the demigods, they actually worship me, Krishna says. But they do it with improper understanding. They're not aware that the demigods are just my servants. Okay, so this Rig Veda has all this collection of these mantras. Then Samaveda, these mantras, they are for invoking the presence of the demigods, because you perform sacrifice. Okay, and then the fire is invited. The fire is the represents Vishnu, the Supreme Lord. And then when the fire appears, then the demigods should be invoked, and then this is done by the mantras from Rig Veda. And then when their presence is there, then by chanting the Samaveda mantras, these demigods are pleased. So first to invoke their presence, and then by the summons, the Samaveda mantras, they are like proper melody. The other rigs, they have only three basic tunes. Therefore, they sound Sahasra Shirsha Purushaha Sahasraksha Sahasrapat Sabumim Vishvato Vritva Atyatishtat Dashambulam. This is the Svaras of Rig Veda. But the summons, they sound just like song. And with this, you please the...
So they have many tones. It's not
seven.
just...
All seven are there.
Seven.
So Samaveda is the basic of music. And then Yajurveda describes how you build the sacrificial kunda, how different ingredients work, how to collect them, how to arrange them, and whatever is miscellaneous is left is Atharva Veda. So these are the four Vedas. And inside each Veda, inside the four Vedas, there are different parts. They are called Samhitas, Brahmanas, Aranyakas, and Upanishads. So the Samhitas are the collection of the mantras, the hymns for Krishna. When we say demigods, for worship of demigods, actually we mean Krishna, because the demigods are just Krishna's servants. Then the Samhitas are the hymns. Then the Brahmanas describe the ritual, how you perform the ritual, the kalpa. Then the Aranyakas describe the metaphysical meaning of this ritual. What is the philosophical meaning behind the practical activity that you do? And then Upanishads describe the ultimate goal of the Vedas. Therefore, the Upanishads are called Vedanta. Vedanta means the end of knowledge. And this is liberation and to attain pure love of Krishna. So these four parts are intrinsic, they're present in all these four Vedas. What is very important to understand about the Vedas is that they are the breathing of Narayana. So they are absolute knowledge. There is no difference between the Vedas and the Lord. In other words, the Vedas are self-sufficient authority. You don't need to prove them. You cannot, even if it's right, because they are transcendental knowledge. So they are accepted as truth, as axiomatic truth. Unless you accept the Vedas in this way, you are not proper follower of the Vedas. People try to deal with the Vedas just like they are mundane knowledge, which they are not. They are coming from the spiritual world. They reveal the spiritual reality and the material reality as well. So whatever Veda says is true. Ramanujacharya, one of the greatest proponents of the Vedic wisdom, in his commentary to Bhagavad Gita, 1842, I believe, there is a verse from Bhagavad Gita which describes the qualities of the Brahmanas. Shamo dhamma tapa shaucham kshantir arjavam evacha jnanam vijnanam astikyam brahma karma svabhavajam. The qualities of the Brahmanas are peacefulness, self-control, sincerity, honesty, truthfulness, etc. So one of the qualities is astikyam, and astikyam means religiosity. And Ramanujacharya defines astikyam as full conviction that the Vedas are right, that the Vedas are correct, even when they contradict the common logic, the mundane logic. So this quality, this understanding should be there. We can doubt ourselves, we can doubt our judgment, but we cannot doubt the Vedas. Okay? When fifth canto of Bhagavatam came out, was printed out, and in this fifth canto, Srila Prabhupada describes not sure if Srila Prabhupada commented on this, but Bhagavatam describes the universe according to the Vedas, how it looks like. Many Hare Krishna devotees left ISKCON, left the movement, because they just could not accommodate all this fantastic description of the universe. Because exactly this time they were landing on the moon, and Prabhupada said they cannot land on the moon because moon is heavenly planet. You're not qualified to go there. They have landed somewhere else. This is not the proper move anyway. So many devotees left, and Prabhupada commented, I can understand if they doubt me, but how can you doubt the Vedas? The Vedas are not to be doubted. So there are many things we can say about the Vedas, but the main thing is that we have to understand Vedas are absolute truth. We can only try to understand the Vedas, how they are true. We cannot, we have to get rid of this Western idea that everything has to be doubted. This came from and the Enlightenment philosophy from 17th century in Europe, when people like René Descartes, and, Francis Bacon, and all these materialistic philosophers, they presented the philosophy of doubt. That we have to doubt. Basically, they meant that we have to doubt
in everything,
scripture.
for everything.
So doubting is a function of the intelligence. It is important it is a symptom that you're intelligent if you doubt something. That means there is brain inside. But doubting is meant for materialistic life. We have to doubt this material enterprise. When we have doubts regarding spiritual life, we are meant to present these doubts in front of our spiritual master, guru, and then he will, by the potency of the Vak, Chit Shakti, the spiritual potency, he will clean these doubts from our heart. By logic, by explanation, by realizations. So we can say many things about the Vedas, but the most important thing is that the Vedas are absolute truth.
So we are speaking with Bhakta Noah today that let's say if we get our knowledge from books like Bhagavad Gita, then we are sure that what is written inside is absolute knowledge, because it's given from God. So it's absolute authority. But everything else, we cannot be sure. Like if you just open internet and you read, and there are so many interesting things there. But you're not sure, is this true or not? Maybe it's true, maybe yes, maybe no. Maybe it will work, maybe yes, maybe no. You don't know. Like for example, when we speak about the Vedas now, we will say a little bit more, but you have the main Vedic books, and then you have like Upa-Vedic books, how you say? Like supplementary books, Vedic books. For example, Ayurveda is one of them. Ayurveda, Jyotirveda, Dhanurveda, all these different, we could say...
Departments of Vedic.
Like
yes.
Different branches.
Yes, different branches that gives us basically more or less knowledge how to survive in the material sphere of life, in the material world. So they are also part of the Vedic knowledge. And then we can be sure in this knowledge because it's given by the Lord itself, Himself. Like the Lord Himself gave the science of Ayurveda. But the medicine, the modern medicine that nowadays we are using, it was not given by the Lord. So people, they were experimenting, and they came to some conclusions because of trying many times. And they basically...
hit and miss.
Yes. They came to some conclusions, and their knowledge is working, yes, but sometimes it's working, sometimes not. Why? Because the knowledge is not perfect. Because it did not came from the Lord downwards, but rather they were trying to figure it out, and some things they managed to figure out, other things they couldn't. So it's not a perfect knowledge. So we can still use it. It can be practical in a certain situations, but again, we should know which sources of knowledge are absolute. So they are, the Sanskrit word is apaurushaya. Apaurushaya exactly means, Purusha means human, and apurusha means not human. They are not manufactured by humans. So we should know which knowledge is not manufactured by humans and which knowledge is actually coming from humans. And human means, well, you work with your brain, and your brain is not absolute, it's not perfect. So some things you'll figure out, some things you'll say, this is the truth, and then after 5 years you'll find out, oh, actually, sorry. Oops, sorry about that one. I didn't know that this will happen.
What will you understand also depends on your piety, which comes from previous life. So if you follow the laws of Krishna, then in this life you have better intelligence, you have better chance to understand more things. Still, it will depend on following Krishna's laws, on your karma.
Yes. And I want to say something else, but I forgot. Anyway.
Para and apara vidya.
There's something else I wanted to say. Anyway, yeah, just again to mention for us as followers of the Vedas, this is a very important moment. This is the basis of our practice, of our culture. So we should know Veda and we should have faith in Veda. Then the process will work very, very well.
Well, this is called pramana in Sanskrit. Pramana means evidence. So whatever you want to establish, you need some proof.
The proof.
So the Vedas are the proof for
Yes,
whatever we
thank you.
want to
Exactly,
establish.
this is what I wanted to say actually, that we as a devotees, whatever we say, whatever we do, where is our proof why we are doing something? It's in the Vedas. But why you chant this mantra? Well, because in the Vedas it is said that we have to chant this mantra. Why you are wearing this sign on your face? Because Vedas are saying so. Why you are dealing in this and this particular way between each other? Well, because Vedas are giving this example in the ancient stories. So everything that we are doing, actually, we should take the knowledge from the Vedas. This means that we are followers of the Vedic knowledge or Vedic culture, also known as the Vaishnava culture. Vaishnava means follower of Vishnu.
Krishna.
Yes, follower of Vishnu. Vaishnava is the follower of Vishnu or Krishna, of course. So Pandava wanted to mention about para and apara vidya. Shortly, you can say.
There are different classifications of Vedic literatures. One of the main is between para and apara vidya. Para vidya means the spiritual knowledge about the soul, about Krishna, about the spiritual world. And apara vidya means material knowledge. The Vedas give both spiritual and material knowledge. They teach us how to attain liberation, how to develop our pure love of God and come back to Godhead, to the spiritual world. But they also teach us how to deal with the material energy of the Lord. And this is called apara vidya. And apara vidya includes sciences like astrology, like Ayurveda, how to... Srila Prabhupada says that these are the two main ones. Because ordinary people, Prabhupada writes in one part, they're very much interested in two things, their health and their future. What will happen? So therefore, certain section of the Brahminical community always practices these two.
One trying to know the future.
medicine and astrology. These are, and Prabhupada explains that they provide their expertise to the general public for free. This is the tradition. They'll travel around in villages. The Brahmanas stay at home and people will come to them, and they will provide their knowledge. They will help people, and people will just give them donation. They will not charge money, because if you charge money, then you're not a Brahmana technically. You become lower. You degrade yourself, and then gradually you lose your ability to perform properly this duty. So what else? Parayana Paravidya, and then we have Shruti and Smriti. This is another main classification. Shruti means the original Vedas, the 4 Vedas.
Which were the 4 Vedas? Can you try to repeat them?
Rig Veda,
Rig?
Yajurveda, Atharvaveda, Samaveda.
Good.
Yes. Okay.
So this is Shruti. What means Shruti?
Shruti means what has been heard. The sages, the great rishis, they heard this, the sound vibration coming from Krishna. It was revealed in their heart. The original rishi was Brahma. And then Smriti means the tradition. Smriti means what has been remembered. That means the great personalities, they have heard the Vedas, Shruti, they have applied this knowledge in their life, and what result, positive or negative, I mean, they're always positive if you apply properly, but if you don't apply properly, then there are always different people who apply properly and improperly. So all this tradition of application of the Vedas, properly or improperly or in between, is also recorded, documented, and this is called Smriti. Smriti means the Puranas, the Itihasas like Ramayana, Mahabharata, the Puranas like Bhagavad Purana, Srimad Bhagavatam, all the Dharma Shastras which describe the duties of the human beings. So this is all big body of literature which is called Smriti. This is the living Vedic tradition. It's like you have the law and then you have the practice of the court, right? How the law has been applied in different cases. So the lawyers, they have to study both. They know the law, but they know also the application of the law. How the judges apply the law. It's important to know how they interpret the law.
So the knowledge that God gave and how the great personalities applied this knowledge in their life.
Yes, this is Smriti. Shruti and Smriti.
Okay, nice, very nice. So yeah, we have the 4 Vedas, then we have the Upanishads, Pandava Prabhu mentioned. Then we have the 5th Veda. Have you heard about the 5th Veda?
I think I did, but I forgot.
So all these books that Pandava Prabhu just mentioned now, Puranas or Smriti literature, they are part of the 5th Veda. In Chandogya Upanishad it is described that this literature is the 5th Veda. They should not be considered different than the 4 Vedas or on a lower level. They are on the same level like the 4 original Vedas. There are spiritual traditions in India. They will tell you, if you start discussing spiritual knowledge with them, they will tell you, we accept only the 4 Vedas. And Bhagavad Gita, this Purana, that Purana, we don't accept all this. Like, even if you quote from these books, no, we don't.
So they don't accept it. Why? Because they don't see this as evidence. Evidence or pramana. So this is a very important discussion.
It's not strong enough evidence for them.
Yeah, this is important discussion. Before you start discussing, you have to establish what is the pramana that you all agree to accept. And but all great acharyas like Madhva, Ramanuja, even Shankara, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, all of them, they accepted. Well, Shankara commented on Gita, so Gita is not part of the Vedas; it is part of Mahabharata. So all of them accept the Puranas the Smriti, they accept them as bona fide Vedic literature. So there are only some misinformed people. They accept only the Vedas
They don't accept.
or the Upanishad.
And also, as we said, there is a famous quote from Chandogya Upanishad. So this is Upanishad. Upanishad is the part of the 4 original Vedas. So in this Chandogya Upanishad, there is a statement that the books like Mahabharata, Puranas, these are the 5th Veda. So the original 4 Vedas themselves say that these other literatures, they are also considered Veda. So on this basis, we can establish these books. So we have the 17 Puranas.
And also Jiva Goswami explains in Tattva Sandarbha, he explains that because one of the meaning of Purana is that which complements the Vedas. It's like дополнение. What's that? Supplementary to the Vedas. And Jiva Goswami explains, just like if you have a golden bangle and let's say it has been broken, you do not fix it with something inferior to gold. You have to use gold in order to fix this jewel. You don't use iron or so in the same way the Puranas, they supplement, they enhance the Vedas, but that means they must be of the same perfect spiritual quality. Not only that, but in Kali Yuga, the Puranas like Srimad Bhagavatam, like Mahabharata, they are actually more important than the original Vedas. Why? Because people in Kali Yuga, we are less intelligent. And the Vedas, if you want to study the Vedas, you have to be in the mode of goodness, minimum. You have to learn Sanskrit, have to follow strict rules, etc. But in Kali Yuga, people are less intelligent. Therefore, for us, books like the Puranas are more important because they are more easily accessible. They are in story form, and you can understand more easily the conclusion of the Vedas.
So basically, yes, we have the 5th Veda, which includes the Puranas, Mahabharata. Then we have a very special philosophical book which is known as Vedanta Sutra. Have you heard about Vedanta Sutra?
I've definitely heard of it, but do I know what it is?
Vedanta Sutra is the greatest philosophical work written ever. It's directly written by Vyasadeva, the author of the Vedas. He tried to summarize the whole philosophy of the Vedas in one book. And it's
Specifically
known
of the
as,
Upanishads.
yes,
So Vedanta is Vedanta Sutra is
the essence of the Upanishadic knowledge.
Yes. The Upanishads are explained in Vedanta Sutra, and Vedanta Sutra is explained in Srimad Bhagavatam.
Yes. So now how this happened, now we are going to describe it. Srila Prabhupada is saying in the introduction to Bhagavad Gita. First, Krishna Dvapayana Vyasa, Srila Vyasadeva, divided the Vedas into 4. Then he explained them in the Puranas. And for the less capable people, he wrote Mahabharata. Because Mahabharata is like a story. It's very easy to read it. In the Mahabharata, there is given the Bhagavad Gita. So, Mahabharata is more like a story, but Bhagavad Gita in Mahabharata is giving the essence of the whole Vedic wisdom, Vedic philosophy. Then, all Vedic literature is summarized in the Vedanta Sutra. And for further guidance, he gave a natural commentation on the Vedanta Sutra called Srimad Bhagavatam. So basically, the author of the whole Vedas, he explained the meaning of the Vedas by making purport to the Vedas. And this purport is Srimad Bhagavatam, Bhagavad Purana. That's why we as devotees, Srimad Bhagavatam is our main book, main proof, main pramana. And we are saying that it's a perfect book. There is no mistakes. There is no human mistakes in it. Srimad Bhagavatam Amalam Puranam. It's Amala. It's without any mistakes. Yad Vaishnavanam Priyam. And that's why it's so dear to the Vaishnavas. So, this book is the most important, the essence of all Vedic knowledge, philosophical knowledge. So, just one thing more to mention is those Puranas, the 18 Puranas, they are divided in 3 times 6, and they are presenting the same knowledge, but it's little bit in a different way presented, in the sense that it's meant for people in the different modes of nature.
Tell him he cannot enter. That's it.
That's different.
If you want, you go on. But close the door and speak outside. So, 6 of the Puranas, they are meant for people in Sattva Guna, Sattvic people. And that's why they describe the absolute reality as it is, 100%. Which are those 6 Puranas? Vishnu Purana, Garuda Purana, Narada Purana, Padma Purana, Varaha Purana, Bhagavat Purana. Those 6, they are directly in Sattva Guna. Then you have...
Same to you. You said you're going.
I didn't say that. I said I was coming to sit down.
No, you.
So we said that 6 of the Puranas are for people who are in Rajaguna. These are Brahmanda Purana, Brahma Vaivarta Purana, Markandeya Purana, Bhavisha Purana, Vamana Purana, and Brahma Purana. So they may say sometimes things which are not completely the supreme absolute truth. Like, for example, they may sometimes say that, okay, Brahma is the supreme, or Shiva is the supreme, or Agni is the supreme. Why? Well, because there are people who are not ready directly to start worshipping Krishna, who is the supreme God, Ishvara Parama Krishna. So now, people, they should have some alternative, otherwise they're not going to do anything. So then basically for those kind of people, there is some option, there is some other opportunity. And then there are 6 Puranas which are known as Tamasic Puranas. Matsya, Kurma, Linga, Shiva, Skanda, and Agni Purana. They may also, let's say, they may give sometimes very strange details for some stories, which from a perspective of the Vaishnavas, people who are living in the mode of goodness may look very strange. I don't know, like for example, someone just goes and kills someone else and start eating him, becomes Rakshasa or something like that, little bit. Details which can be very juicy for people who are in the lower modes, but who won't be really interested for people who are in Sattva Guna. But still, in order to attract the attention of those kind of people, this knowledge is given. Like, I'll give you one example we heard from one spiritual master. In Srimad Bhagavatam, which is Samoa Purana, Sattvic Purana, even above the Sattvic Puranas, we have the story of Narada Muni, who was a small child, and while he was living with his mother, four great sages came and stayed with them 4 months during the rainy season. And Narada Muni and his mom, they were serving these great sages. And while this was going on, Narada Muni was serving them. He asked them to eat remnants of their food, and in this way he made very fast spiritual advancement, very rapid spiritual advancement. So now Narada Muni became the great sage Narada, and so on and so on and so on. The whole story said. So now, who were those 4 sages? It is not mentioned. Why? Because it is not so important. The most important thing from the story is what? By serving the great sages, you can make very fast spiritual advancement. That's the moral of the story, the conclusion. But now some people, they can be very curious. But who are those? Maybe there are some very special sages, and maybe they gave some special power to this boy. That's why he made very fast spiritual advancement. So curiosity. Okay, so for all these people who are very curious, they want to know all these details. This will be given in the other Puranas, the Jasic Puranas or Tamasic Puranas, all these details. And there we can find, like for example, that those 4 sages were the 4 Kumaras, which are direct sons of Lord Brahma. So like that, for different mentalities of people, still you have some Vedic literature so that they can apply it and make some spiritual advancement. It may not be the full spiritual advancement at one point, at one time, but it should have something for them as well. So that's why sometimes people, they read in some parts of the Vedic literature something which may look very strange, and they start asking, but why this, why that, here there is contradiction, this, that. No, there is no contradiction. Just Vedas, they were written down from a very broad-minded sages, and they wrote them in such a way that they are applicable for everybody. And sometimes from our very small perspective, it may look like that, but here is said one thing and here is said other thing, there is contradiction. There is no contradiction. Just from our small viewpoint, there is some contradiction. So let's say something also about...
So you understand that these different types of Puranas, they are not in Tamoguna or in Rajaguna or in Sattva-guna. They're transcendental, but they are meant for people in these 3 gunas. Otherwise, we may think that, this is Tamasic Purana. No, it's transcendental, but it's meant for people who are in Tamoguna. Okay, it's difference. Otherwise, we offend the Vedas by calling them Tamasic or Rajasic.
Like for example, you have mathematics, and mathematics is mathematics. But how you are going to present the same principles of the mathematics, it will be different on each grade. Yes? First grade it will be presented, the same principles are there, but they will be presented in one way. Then maybe 3-4 grades later, the same things will be presented in a completely different way. Then when you go in a university, the same principles of mathematics will be presented in a completely different way. So the same transcendental spiritual knowledge of the Vedas is presented, but according to the level of the person who is going to study this knowledge. Yes. So that he can get something out of it and apply it in his life. That's important point. So let's say something about Mahabharata. Hare Krishna, George, welcome. Let's say something about Mahabharata. Mahabharata, it's sometimes known as the greatest epos in human history. Why? It's a huge book, has 100,000 verses. So this is more than many of the other classical books that we know.
Like the Greeks have Odyssey and Iliada.
The encyclopedias.
They are like this together, and Mahabharata is
Right.
So it's a great body of literature, and basically is giving lots of spiritual wisdom, but also lots of moral wisdom. And the most important part of Mahabharata, of course, is Bhagavad Gita. Bhagavad Gita is like the essence of Mahabharata. This book, Bhagavad Gita, is appearing in another bigger book, which is known as Mahabharata. So, in this book is described the history of the dynasty Bharata, known as Bharata, the great Bharatas. And while all these stories are being told, within them there is so much wisdom, knowledge, how practically to live our life. What to do, what not to do, how to deal with each other. All these different things are described very, very, very nicely. Vedanta Sutra. Vedanta means knowledge, Veda means knowledge, and Anta means end, and Sutra means aphorism. So Vedanta Sutra consists of aphorisms that explain the ultimate end of knowledge, the essence of all knowledge. Also very, very important book. It's also a very big book, and the language of this book is very technical. You have to be, it's basically for scholars, you have to be part of this scene so that you are able to work with this book and understand it. For most of us, if we just now go and buy a copy of Vedanta Sutra and start reading, it will be like above our head, it will be like too much. Like, let's say, to read the text of Ayurveda in Sanskrit, like some sutras describing Agni, describing the doshas, to be like, come on, give me a break, this is too much. You have to be part of this field to understand how the things are working. Mahabharata is written, it is said that Vyasadeva wrote Mahabharata for the less intelligent people of Kali Yuga. So basically for
dummies.
For all of us. Yes. For all of us.
They have a line of book for dummies to help explain whatever you want.
No, because the fabula, it's just a story. And in the story you have like Romeo and Juliet, lots of love, and you have some fighting and wars, and then you have some like they try to make some revolution, this and that. So it's extremely interesting, like constantly something is going on, it's like wow. But then at the same time, in between all this, you have so much wisdom. So basically it's just like to give a medicine to someone by putting the medicine, let's say, in a spoon of honey or yogurt or something like that. Looks very sweet, but actually the medicine is already inside. So the whole transcendental knowledge of the Vedas, it's given in a very easy way. We recommend this book for everyone to read.
If I could just mention something. I found myself more absorbent of the most complex philosophies on writings such as these in my most dramatic of times of my life. I feel like some knowledge cannot be received unless you have been able to relate and experience this on your own to truly receive it as the truth. So I think that if you're able to tap into whatever it is that you've been through and somehow relate to what it is, maybe perhaps, for example, these poor people during their times of war, it would be easier to absorb.
Yes. Yes. In a sense, yes. Of course, it depends from... Like when there are difficulties in life, they push us to be more philosophical, yes?
Yeah.
But sometimes if the difficulties are too much, you don't want to think about anything anymore because it's like too much. So some balance should be there between suffering and happiness in order to be open for spiritual development. That's why actually the earth is extremely beneficial place for spiritual development, because you have a very nice balance between good and bad. Like if you go on the heavenly planets, up in the universe, the sense gratification, the happiness is so much, you start thinking, why I have to deal with all this like spiritual knowledge, this, that, just enjoy life. Mm-hmm. And then if you go too much down, there is so much suffering that from suffering you cannot think about anything. So now you go in between the two. You go in between the good and in between the bad. You find a good balance between these two. Srimad Bhagavatam. Srimad Bhagavatam, as we said, this is our book. It's the book of our Sampradaya. 18,000 verses. Also, it's a very big book. Amalam Puranam. It's perfectly pure, spotless Purana. Paramahamsa Samhita. It's called Paramahamsa Samhita because it's the treasure for the highest class of human beings. The highest spiritual conclusions are revealed in this book, Srimad Bhagavatam. Vedanta Sutra and Bhagavad Gita are considered the cream of the Vedas, while Srimad Bhagavatam is considered the essence of that cream, the butter. So if we really want to find the conclusions of the whole Vedic knowledge in one book, in a reasonable, kind of easy to understand language, this is Srimad Bhagavatam. That's why this book is considered very, very, very special. Okay, so let's say something shortly about the goal of the Vedic knowledge. The Vedas explain that we have mainly 4 goals of our life, or 4 goals that we can achieve through with the help of Vedic knowledge. Of course, there are actually 5, but the 5th is a little bit more confidential, so maybe Pandava shortly can explain those.
Okay, they're called
4
Purusha Artha. Purusha Artha. First one is Dharma. Dharma means the inherent nature, the intrinsic nature of every object that is given by Krishna. For example, Shri gives examples. The salt is salty. This is the dharma of the salt, that it's salty. If you take out the salt, it's not anymore salt properly. Or the sugar should be sweet. Or the water should be wet. Or the soul, the dharma of the soul is that it is servant of God. So this is inherent nature, it is there by the arrangement of Krishna, it cannot be taken away from the object. This is what defines the object as such. So dharma, in connection to this meaning, dharma means the duties that we all have to perform. So in following our inherent nature, we have duties. So we are servants of Krishna, that means our main duty is to serve Krishna. So there is set of duty for each individual according to his or her material conditioning also. So when we perform our duties properly according to Shastra, according to the law, the Vedas, then the next Purushartha is Artha. Artha means money. When we perform our duties properly, we'll get money, no matter what our duties are. They may not be directly connected to making money as such, like we may think in our limited vision. Maybe the duty of a Brahmana are just teaching, studying Shastra and teaching Shastra. But by doing this, although maybe you don't see the direct connection, how he will maintain himself by doing this. Now, Krishna will provide all his necessities by sending him money to maintain himself. So by performing dharma, there will be artha. Then when we have artha, when we have money, then there will be opportunity for kama. This is the third purushartha. Kama means pious sense gratification according to the regulations of Shastra. Then your desires will be fulfilled to the extent that it is proper for you, so that you don't get too much entangled in material activities, which will be harmful in the long run. And then when you perform dharma, artha, then kama, then normally people get sooner or later they get frustrated by, even if they're very pious, because in the material world you cannot attain a lasting happiness. There will be always some frustration and disappointment, and even if your life is going on smoothly, there will be death. At the end you have to get separated from all your attachments, people and objects. So then the last is moksha. Moksha means liberation. There is one ancient king, Yayati, who was so pious that he enjoyed life for thousands of years. And then at the end, he said, now I am happy that there is no happiness in this material world. So peacefully he attained moksha and went back home, back to God, because he saw that I did everything properly according to Shastra. I got all different types of pious sense gratification that I could, that it is possible for a human being. And then I saw that still I'm not happy. Still something is lacking. Still the best thing is to surrender to Krishna. So together with his wife, they practiced Bhakti Yoga and then they went back home to Godhead. So these are the four Purusharthas: Dharma, Artha, Kama, and Moksha. And the fifth one is confidential. But I guess we can share with you because you are our dear friends.
The fifth one is called Purushartha Shiromani Prema Pumarto Mahan. This is like the crash jewel of all confidential information, the love of God. Prema, Pum Artha, the highest goal of human existence, love of God. Pure, uncontaminated, unconditional love.
This is even beyond liberation. It's higher than liberation.
Because liberation is still selfish. I want to do my duty so that I'm known as a good man. I want to enjoy. I want to become free from the problems of the material world. It's all about me. Now, when you go to the fifth goal, it's not anymore about you. It's about God, about the pleasure of God. And because we are parts and parcels of God, automatically we become also happy. It's just like if you have a very close, very intimate relationship with someone and you make him happy, you give him a present, something, you see he's really happy, automatically you also become happy, isn't it? So it works in the same way. When you really make God happy, then you also become happy.
The virtue of a concept to give, not to receive. But I ask you now, why is this considered confidential?
Because, in a sense, it's not confidential, but it is very confidential, the most confidential, because love of God means the knowledge about your relationship with God, which is something which does not happen in this world. It is happening in the spiritual world. So it's basically knowledge beyond this universe. So that's why it's very, very, very special knowledge. In Bhagavad Gita, if you go into 9th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, you will see the name of the chapter is the most confidential knowledge. Because specifically describes the nature of God and the nature of the relationship between God and the living entity. This is called the most confidential knowledge, Araja Guhyam. It's like the essence of all secrets, the most confidential knowledge.
So sacred, that has to be confidential.
What is the soul, what is the living entity doing in the spiritual world? This is very secret knowledge, very unique, very special knowledge.
And at the same time, it's open secret. The idea is that very few people are actually interested in this and are qualified, in this sense qualified. Not that it is forbidden, it is kept, by some secret society that keeps
Maintain.
how we call it?
Actually,
the nectar of eternal life, keeps it just for their members. It's open secret, but not so many people are interested because it means complete surrender.
Before, actually, it was secret in the previous yugas, in the previous ages. Yeah, that was knowledge was not just given to anybody.
Yeah.
But because now we are in which yuga? Kali Yuga, which is the iron age of quarrel and hypocrisy. Yes. So basically we are very, 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 very fallen. So the knowledge is given anyway, because somehow or other we should be able to save ourselves.
And is that not a blessing?
Yeah, it is.
It is the greatest blessing.
The beginning of the end.
That's why there is a verse from the Vedas which is saying, Kaler Doshani Dei Rajan, this Kali Yuga age, it's an ocean of mistakes, ocean of imperfections. Astiki Eka Mahad Guna, but although there are so many imperfections, so many mistakes and problems, there is one great quality. Mahad Guna, a very great quality. Kirtanat eva Krishnasya mukta sangha paramvrachat. Just by glorifying the Lord, by singing the names of the Lord, mukta sangha, immediately one can become liberated. So simple. In the previous ages it was not so simple.
Wow.
But in this age, okay.
Therefore, even great souls, demigods, higher than humans, beings from higher planets, they are waiting in a queue. Sometimes it is described in Bhagavatam. They're praying to get the opportunity to be born on this planet during Kali Yuga, because if you're born as human being now, then the process of going back home to Godhead, attaining perfection, is very easy and very short. For one very short human life, according to the
Universal time.
The universal time, the human life is very short. It is really short. The demigods, they live long time, like one day of the demigods is 1 year for human beings. So one year for us.
24 hours for the demigods.
For them.
It's
And
1
you
hour.
can imagine, they see humans, they appear, and very quickly they grow old and they die. For them, it's like there are these insects that they are born in the evening and they have their fun during the night, and then in the morning they're all dead.
Yeah.
So we are like them for the demigods. So for them, when they see that humans are becoming devotees, chanting Hare Krishna, and before they know, they attain perfection, pure love of Krishna, then they go back home to God forever. And then for them, it's like
it's like watching ants get like, whoa.
Therefore, they develop this. I want to take birth, and also take part of the Sankirtana movement, because this is very quick relief from all this.
So they're looking with the way they view their time. They're looking at us based on their timing, the time.
Yeah.
So on their time, it's like fast. But
Everybody.
it appears like it's something that goes quickly.
Everybody lives 100 years in the universe.
Hmm?
All living entities live 100 years. The feeling, how you feel about it, it's like the same way we feel about our human life. It's not longer than that. But these 100 years are different. Our 100 years are very short. Theirs are very large, big amount. But the feeling, the subjective, how you feel about it is the same. Doesn't matter if you are one of these flies that last only one night, or human, or demigod. The feeling is the same. Yes.
Cool.
Yeah.
So say a lifetime in Satya Yuga, does it feel like the same span as a human? Okay. So then it probably goes a lot faster, but feels the same.
The feeling is the same, although it's longer objectively, but subjectively it's the same. The feeling is the same.
They last how many years? 10,000 years?
100,000.
100,000.
Yes.
I like to think of my bunny rabbit. My poor bunny rabbit has left us maybe a week now. Her name was Woodstock. She was living with a bunch of cats who used to just jump on her all the time. And she was very brave. But the first bunny that I've ever met where if you put your finger in her mouth, she won't bite you. Because it's in her instinct to bite. And I understand her as a creature is very small, and she'll hop right up to you and just wait for you to pet her. Woodstock. And she's like goes with the breeze. That's why we call her Woodstock. And she, her heart beats very fast, but her lifespan is very short. I've heard, different mystical beliefs about gnomes, and they run around in nature, and that they live at a very high vibration, and their hearts beat so fast, but they don't live as long.
Yeah.
These are smaller creatures. It's the same concept, I think.
Yeah. Yeah.
Even with the pigeons, their hearts are like pumping so fast as well.
Who?
Pigeons,
Yes.
it's another one, so
Yes.
they're like hot-blooded.
Right. Thank you.
Jumper, what is the time exactly?
It is 8:36.
8:36. So the last topic we are going to address for today, and we will continue next time. These are the three great treasures of the Vedas, or we could say the three main aspects of the spiritual knowledge of the Vedas. They are known with three Sanskrit words, three terms. Maybe some of you already heard this, but anyway, we are going to repeat it again. It's important, it's a very easy way to basically put the huge Vedic knowledge just in three small categories. So this is Sambandha, knowledge about our relationship with God, about our nature, the living entities, about material world, and what is the connection between these three. So this is called Sambandha. Sambandha means like the basic knowledge you should have in order to function in a certain field of activity. Like, for example, you go to work in some company. Oh, you should know the basic things. Okay, who is the boss? That's the boss. Who am I? I'm the servant. Who are all these others? Well, they are my colleagues. I have to basically like have a good relationships with them, and then you should be able to survive in this. So you should have a knowledge. That's the first thing. Sambandha. Then the second thing is Abhideya, or rather, let's say the other way around. The last thing is Prayojana. Prayojana is what is our goal? What is the goal of life? What do we want to achieve with our existence? This is very important because if you don't have a goal, you won't have enthusiasm to do anything. Like, for example, okay, you go in the company, you know who is your boss, you know who are you, you know your colleagues, but then you don't have any goal. So you won't achieve anything. You should know what's my goal. Like, okay, I want to reach this position, or I want to make that much money every month, or I want to become the biggest in this company and then go to the next company. Like, you should have some goal, something that drives you to live and to accomplish, to work. Otherwise, you won't do anything. And then the third is Abhideya. This is the process to achieve your goal. So how to do it? Okay, that's my goal. That's my field of activity. So now how to do it? You need a process to be able to do it. So the whole knowledge in the Vedic literature, although huge, massive body of literature, massive body of knowledge, all this can be summarized in these three categories. Knowledge about who are we, who is God, what is the world around us, and what's the connection between these three. Knowledge about what is the ultimate goal that we want to achieve, and knowledge what is the process, how to achieve this. So this is a very, very, very easy, basic way to systemize the whole Vedic knowledge, to keep it in your head always. Who am I? Who is God? What's my connection with Him? What do I want to achieve this life? And what is the way to achieve it? What is the process to achieve it? And in terms of our philosophy, the Vaishnava, the Vedic philosophy, answer is very simple. So we are not the body, we are spirit souls. We are parts and parcels of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna, of God. We are His servants. And material energy is one of the energies of God, so is also subordinate to God. And what is the ultimate goal of life? Well, to reestablish our relationship with God, because we had relationships, now maybe we have, maybe we don't have. And then, how to do it? Well, by serving with love and devotion to God. We will reestablish these relationships. So basically, this is with 2-3 sentences the essence of the whole knowledge of the Vedas. Yes.
Correct me if I'm wrong. Awareness, the process, and the goal.
Yes, exactly. Awareness. Because, why awareness? Because if, let's say, you want to achieve something and you know how to achieve it, but you're not conscious where are you, how you're going to do it. Let's say, for example, you want to go to LA and you know how to do it. You know, okay, I can do it by plane. But you don't know where are you. And let's say you call on the phone and you say, hey, my dear, come pick me up. From where? I don't know. Or let's say you know where are you, and you call, come pick me up. Okay, where are you? Well, I'm in this and this place. Okay, where we are going? Never thought about that. It's a good question. Let me think about it. Yeah. Okay, think fast because the fuel is kind of finishing. Or then you know where are you know where you want to go, but you don't know how you're going to do it. Then again you have a problem. So that's why we call it a universal knowledge, because now we explain this knowledge in terms of spirituality, but actually this super practical knowledge about any sphere of life, no matter which sphere of life, if you don't have a clear answer to these three, you won't be successful. It's just not possible. No matter, like Ayurveda, okay, you should know who are you, what is your body of knowledge that you're using, what's your goal, and what you're going to do to achieve your goal. Always, in each sphere of life, you should have very clear answer of these three, otherwise the process won't work.
So can you tell me the three names?
Sambandha,
Sambandha,
Abhideya,
Abhideya,
and Prayojana.
Prayojana.
Sambandha means connection. Abhideya means repetition. You repeat something, you do it again and again and again. So the practice. And Prayojana means ultimate destination, ultimate goal. These are the Sanskrit terms for these three. But if it's difficult to remember the Sanskrit terms, we can just remember the idea, how the thing works. We will repeat this a few times again and again, because many of those terms we will not remember, but this is something extremely easy and practical. So if we keep this thing with us, this will be already very beneficial for our spiritual life as well as material life. So thank you very much for your kind appearance here, careful listening and asking questions. Shri Prabhupada ki.